All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is episode 7 of the Last One Fast One podcast. We have an insane guest tonight, and it seems like the guests just keep getting better and better. But I was telling Luke before the podcast, I don't think we can get any better than this. I think this is peak. So we got a world champion, a 4-time Olympian, a 5-time world championship medalist, and he was a bronze medalist in 2012, and he swam at this last Olympic Games in Tokyo. Welcome to the podcast, Brent Hayden.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So Brent, where are you at right now?
In New Westminster, British Columbia, so it's like just outside of Vancouver.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, so we're just gonna take it way back to Brent as a little kid. How'd you find swimming?
I didn't find it very well. I've one of the stories I talk about is how I failed swimming lessons growing up, right? Not just once, but twice. Like my parents love telling that story of how they basically like the instructors like handed me back to my parents, like because they just couldn't teach me, and they just like threw me back in the water, and I just stood there with my nose above the surface, just like bawling my eyes out. Yeah, I don't know. I was just petrified of the water, I guess. But I have an older sister who was on the local swim team, the Mission Marlins, and I think it was just my parents were just determined to waterproof me, and it was just easier to drop both kids off at one place, right, at the pool, instead of like driving me over to baseball or soccer and whatever. So, got some private lessons, and eventually made my way onto the team.
Gotcha. So, we took a look. So in 3rd grade, you said you wanted to be an Olympian. So
Yeah.
like going back at such a young age, putting that goal on yourself, how does it feel to like eventually achieve that goal?
Oh, it's amazing, right? Like especially like in 3rd grade, I was still like, even though I'd been swimming for a few years, I still wasn't good at it. But like I was just one of those kids that just, if I had a dream of one day what I wanted to achieve, I was just like, I didn't think about the possibility that I couldn't achieve it, right? It's just like I didn't think about the reasons why I couldn't get there. I just thought about, well, what if I do, right? Why not me, right? And also, like, I think one thing that that also kind of aspired to that was the fact that, like, in my hometown, we had our local sports hall of fame, like our local athletes, local heroes. Right there in the facility. So sometimes if I got out of the pool faster than my sister at a few minutes, my parents would find me in the hall there reading the stories of all the other local heroes. And we had a couple of swimmers from my hometown, right? We had Gary McDonald, who was a silver medalist at the Montreal Olympics. And then we had Ryan Lauren, who at the time was the Canadian record holder for the 50-meter freestyle. So for me growing up at that age, just reading the stories of people who had come from my small town, like, well, then why can't I do it? Like, why can't I have my name in here too?
Yeah, that's
when
crazy.
did you start to realize like, hey, I think I got something special. I got something special going on here.
I was probably about 14, right?
Okay.
14, 15. So like probably grade 10, I guess that would put me in. Right.
Okay.
So that would have been my last year of summer club swimming. Like I was still just doing the summer club thing when I was 14 years old. And I remember actually telling one of my teammates that, hey man, I want to, start training year round. I want to go train with that other team and maybe start competing at faster meets. And I remember he actually told me, well, if you're going to do that, then just forget about winning. Right? Those kids are too fast. And that was the first time I really kind of put it into perspective, like, well, that's not really the point, right? I just want to see how fast I can go. And so I think that's one of the things that made that whole journey possible, especially like I had so many people telling me I was too late to be making that transition, that if I wouldn't have the aerobic base to do the training, or I'd burn out. And I had lots of people apparently telling my parents too that it just wasn't going to be worth it. But my parents were like, well, it makes him happy, so let's just do it. Let's give him the opportunity.
Yeah, that's really powerful. So yeah, you make it on to 2002. You make it to the Pan Packs. What
Yeah.
events were you swimming? If you remember your times, and how'd that go for you?
I remember I was in the 100-meter free. I got 2 bronze medals on relays. The 100 free, I got 4th. Because that was like my first year on the national team. So for me to come 4th in Japan, right, it was pretty huge for me, especially I'm in the same heat as Ian Thorpe. Right, like I remember actually like talking, joking around with Ian actually before that race. So it's a pretty cool memory. But I set my first Canadian record in the heats, and then I broke it again in the semis, and then I broke it again in that final. But gosh, like these times weren't, they're not good by today's standards at all. Right, I think it was like a 49.7 and then a 49.7 again, just a little bit faster. And then I went 4th and was a 49.7, 49.7, yeah. And then 49.5.
Yeah.
So I want to take it back just a little bit. I read something online that it says you were getting up at 3:30 in the morning to go to practice in high school. I didn't write this on the outline, so Luke skipped over it. But talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, like, because in my town, we didn't have a team that trained year round, we didn't, like a winter club. We only had our small summer club.
Okay.
So for me to get to training, which had to be on deck at 4:45 in the morning, well, it was a 45-kilometer drive, right? So that would take me about 45 minutes. Some of that was actual freeway driving too. Then, driving through farmland, trying not to hit the cats as they're running across the road in the middle of the night. Right. But yeah, like, it was like my dad would have to sometimes come down to make sure I was actually out of bed, just wolf down my oatmeal, and then I'd get out the door and I'd be, driving down the freeway pitch black at night, or at the time my dad was driving, or I'd be carpooling with another buddy of mine who was doing the same thing. And then I'd have to make that drive all the way back to my town in time for high school. Right. And then after high school, driving back out there again, and then driving back at night, and then doing my homework and going to bed and doing the same thing again. So it was, in terms of training and like time management and just dedication, those were probably the 2 hardest years I ever had to do was my grade 11, grade 12 years. Like that set me up so that everything else after that felt easy.
Gotcha.
So you were willing to do anything what it takes. You wanted to reach that next level. So how old were you in 2002 then when you were at that Pan Packs?
About maybe 18.
Okay.
I think.
So at this point, are you done? Are you done with high school?
Yeah. This was my first year in university.
Okay. So you went to university. Did you swim?
Yeah, I did a couple years of varsity before I decided, I just want to focus on swimming full time.
Gotcha. And what does Canada, I guess we're from the United States. I'm from Iowa. Luke's over in Nebraska.
Yeah, I can see it on the hat there.
Yeah, there we go. We understand the cold though. We still get what cold weather's like. Don't worry. What's that? Is Canada like short course meters? Is that what they do in college? Are they long course? How does that work?
I'm not even sure how they're doing it now. Like when I was doing it, it was the championship meet with like the whole season was short course meters. I don't know if they're throwing in long course meters now, but that was in the CIS is what we called it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a chance to swim yards?
I did once.
Okay.
It was a dual meet in Phoenix, and that was fun because like the 100-meter freestyle is over. Like, man, I didn't even get tired. Like the race, like I still had like a few more seconds left to go. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. But that ended up being the only time I ever actually got a chance to race yards, and I think that might have even been back in like 2003 or something. Like we rarely ever even trained yards. Right. The only times we do it if we were like we're in Maui doing a training camp or something. We show up into the pool, and they've got the pool set up short course, and that pool just happens to be yards. So we got a few yard practices in, but that was about it.
Gotcha. So after Pan Packs, what's the move to make it to the next level, to the world championship stage?
Ooh, man, my world champs in 2003 did not go very well. That was because like that was the first time, like, because the Commonwealth Games is just Commonwealth countries, and then Pan Pacs is just countries that are on the Pacific Ocean. So World Champs was like the first time I was actually going against the whole world at once. And I remember I didn't make it past the at least the semifinal, maybe even the heats. I didn't break 50 because I took a breath into the last turn. I just got a big mouthful of water. So I popped up early and I nailed the incoming wave behind me. I felt like I got like launched up vertically and then had to like start swimming again. But I'm behind everybody else's wave. And that race, that did not go well at all. But I mean, getting there was I think I was just continuing just doing the same thing that I was doing the year before, just, because I had the same coach from 2001 all the way until I retired in 2012, right?
Oh, wow.
Right.
Gotcha.
And then he was my coach again for Tokyo. So.
Oh, wow. So same guy the whole time.
Same guy. Yeah. Tom Johnson.
Wow.
That's crazy. 2004, Olympic Games for Athens. Your first Olympics. Talk us through how that went.
Oh, that was something.
Yeah. Hold on. How did you have to qualify for that games before we get in?
Sure. I mean, there was a qualifying time, and for me, it was faster than my best time. But I think the qualifying time at the time was like a 49.3, and I went to 49.1. And again, that was good at the time. Like, I feel like I got to remind people of that are watching. Like, these were good times back then. These times would not be competitive now, but they were definitely then. Went out of the qualifying time. I qualified in the 100 free. I think the 200 free as well. And then I swam all 3 relays, but those games did not go well for me at all. And it's just because like I was borrowing my roommates or my teammates power adapter to run our clock because we didn't have smartphones, right? Like these things didn't exist yet. So we had to pack an alarm clock to travel with us. So I think it was like his power adapter had like a high-low switch on it, and at some point somebody had flipped the switch on it. So when I plugged the clock in, I didn't realize it was running extra fast, and it went off saying it was 7 o'clock. I got up, got my tracksuit on, grabbed my bag, which I had packed the night before. I walk out the front door of our building, and I'm like, I actually know it's like, oh, it's still pretty dark out for this time, but didn't really clue in. Got on the bus, went to the cafeteria, walked in the cafeteria, and it was like ghosts. It was just like one guy with a mop. Like, that was it. And I think I started to sense something was wrong, and that was kind of like the final like realization that I had royally messed up. And so I called my team manager, woke him up, asked him what time it was. He's like, it's 3:30. So I remember like booking it back. I took a shortcut back to my building because I don't think the bus was going to be coming back around for a while. So I just wanted to get back to my room as quickly as possible, put my head down on the pillow and try to go to sleep. But now my brain is just like, wheels are going about how like I've already screwed up and all these like negative thoughts in my head. I couldn't fall back asleep. And I ended up not swimming the relay in the morning. But swimming it at night, I felt like I was about to fall asleep when I was in the ready room. It was like, I remember my coach actually handing me a bottle of Coke to try to give me some sugar just to try to wake me up. And I ended up having a disastrous leg on my relay. And we should have medaled, but because of that little thing with the power adapter and the clock running fast, it just derailed my whole performance, and we missed a medal in that relay. So it was a pretty disappointing performance, to say the least.
Gotcha. So you went in there it was your first Olympics, but you still wanted to perform.
Oh, still wanted to perform, right? It was like I was swimming fast, right? Like I was swimming good at trials. On paper, we're like, yeah, man, we have a really good shot at getting a medal here. Like, not even like an outside shot. Like, I think it was kind of like basically just between us and Italy for the bronze. That's kind of what we were looking at. And I think we ended up 5th, like way back from 3rd. So yeah, I still kind of look back and kind of feel like I kind of let my team down there, right? Like, think back, like, I could blame somebody else for messing around with the adapter, but ultimately, like, I shouldn't be relying on other people like that. I should have my own power adapter, running my own alarm clock, just taking care of my own stuff. And that was a big life lesson.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a tough thing to have for your first Olympics.
Oh yeah, yeah. And the interview after the race didn't make it any better either.
Oh no.
Tell us about the interview after the race.
Oh, just let's just say one of my teammates was pretty upset and was kind of tongue-in-cheekly calling me out as basically the guy that let the whole team down.
No, that's rough.
Did that motivate you moving forward, or was it just kind of like, forget it, I don't care what he thinks?
Oh, it made me angry, that's for sure. So I think not wanting to get too far ahead of the story, but I think it kind of was part of the reason why I had so much fuel in my the 4x2 relay in Beijing.
I gotcha.
So talk us a little bit. So after 2004, it's right before the games are about to the closing ceremony, and you get attacked by was it Riot police?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So this was a week after we're done competing, right? Let me say that first, because that was a discussion that happened in the media afterwards when they mixed the dates up. So we had been done competing for a week. We were doing what every other Olympian does at the Olympics. They let loose, they go out, they watch sports during the day, and then they go out and they have drinks and they party, right? They have a good time. They
Right.
celebrate, right? So we were just out, like a group of us, and we're walking down the street and we're trying to think like, okay, well, where do you guys want to go next? And we just see this whole line of riot police blocking the end of the road. Like, okay, like they're all standing there shoulder to shoulder, like shield to shield, full like helmet gear and everything. And we're trying to think, so we're trying to figure out like, well, where should we go? So someone's like, well, let's just go back to the village. We're like, okay, that's probably a good idea. Then suddenly the people, like all the locals that were around us, started pulling like dumpsters into the middle of the streets because they're on wheels. So they started like setting up these barricades. And so now you can imagine like the confusion that's going on in our heads, right? And they just started picking anything off the streets, like rocks and bottles, whatever, and just started throwing them at the riot police. And next thing we know, the police just started charging at us. And you could hear like it was like a popping sound. So I'm thinking those were like probably like rubber bullets. You could hear like the sound of tear gas, like canisters bouncing along the road. So like we ran, we just wanted to get out of there because we didn't want to like get hit. Right. So we just ran back into the bar that we had just come from, but now everybody else is trying to cram in there as well. So we don't get in very far. We just barely make it in the doorway, but we're like, okay, well, we're off the street, so we're not like going to get hit by any rubber bullets or anything. And while I'm just standing there, just this hand reaches over my shoulder and just like grabs me by the shirt like this and just yanks me backwards. And I got dragged out into the street and I'm thrown face down on like in the middle of the street. And they just started beating the crap out of me. Right. Like they're just like, I'm face down. I got my arms covering my head. They're like, I can just feel the blows. Like they're kicking me, they're hitting me with their batons. Now I had my accreditation in my pocket, and I had the lanyard looped around my belt loop on my jeans, right? So I wouldn't lose it. So I pulled it out while I'm protecting my head with one arm, and I hold the accreditation over my head, and I'm screaming like, I'm an athlete, please stop hitting me. And they ripped it off my lanyard, and they just like tossed it aside. I felt it get ripped out of my hands. And they just kept beating me. It probably lasted for, I think the statement that one of the athletes gave was that it lasted for at least a few minutes.
Oh my God.
Right. Like it wasn't like 10, 15 seconds. Like they were just going to town on me. Right. When they were done, I just threw my hands behind my back because I just wanted them to just cuff me. Right. Just stop hitting me. So they cuffed me, they lift me up by the cuff. So I still remember like the feeling of like the cuffs like digging into my wrist as like basically like had my whole weight like hanging off of them. And they start pushing me down the street. And this one officer comes up and he screams something at me in Greek. He spits in my face and then he punches me in the groin. Right. And the guy pushes me down the street further, takes me around the corner. And there's like a couple other people that have been arrested that are sitting down on the ground. And he throws me head first into the corner of the building. Didn't like hit my head. Thankfully, I kind of like hit the wall with my shoulders, and I just kind of like crumpled down, and then I just sort of sat there. And anytime I tried to get anybody's attention to like, hey, guys, like, come on, like, let me talk to somebody. Somebody would just be yelling at me in Greek and holding a can of pepper spray in my face. Like they didn't want to talk, let me talk, right? And after, I think this whole ordeal went for about 45 minutes before suddenly this one officer that could speak English just comes over, stands me up, uncuffs me, and he says, sorry about that. And I'm like, okay, well, why me? He said, oh, you were tall and wearing a dark shirt. That was his excuse. Right. Some of the other athletes had been waiting there to like, they were kind of like in the crowd. So one of them handed me back my accreditation, and it was like all mangled. Right. So got that back, thankfully, because that's like your passport. I wouldn't be able to get back into the village without it. Went back to the village, had to go to the polyclinic and get an x-ray because my elbow was sticking out like that far, right? Giving statements. The other athletes are giving statements, and I can't remember how long it was afterwards when we finally got a statement back from the Greek government, but they basically called it a peaceful demonstration with no arrests or injuries. Right. But again, back then we didn't have smartphones, so nobody had a camera to take pictures. Right. The one guy that had a camera with us or with him, he left earlier that night. He was only out with us for half the night, so got no photos with it. Jeez. Right. But yeah, I was seriously contemplating quitting swimming after that because, you know, since grade 3, I dreamed about one day going to the Olympics. And I go and I just, you know, I let my team down. Right. I, dropped the ball there. And then I have the most traumatic experience of my life. I'm like, why would I want to keep going? Right. Right. But luckily I had a good support team around me. I couldn't go to the World Short Course Champs. I had to scratch from that because I couldn't move my arm for a couple of weeks. Yeah. And then a couple months later, that actually got out into the media. So I had to start doing interviews and stuff about that. But then one of the reporters got the dates wrong and said it happened the night before the relay. I wrote this whole like full page article about me in their paper about how I decided to go out drinking the night before a relay, and forget the fact that I got beat up. Why was I out drinking the night before my relay? So that whole article is just like tearing me apart but anyways, we got him to admit that he wrote the article that way because he was angry because apparently he felt like I had ignored his interview request and I was doing interviews with everybody else except him. But it's because he gave a voicemail at my parents' house on their answering machine, but my parents were out of town for the weekend. So they didn't get home till Monday. Well, he published the paper Monday morning. So, but a lot of people that's the story they heard about me. They never heard the correct version. So I had to deal with that for quite a few years after that. Every once in a while, I'll still actually run into somebody. Well, it actually hasn't happened in a couple of years, but somebody will remember the wrong story and be like, oh yeah, you're the guy that went out before his relay in Athens, right? I'm like, no, I didn't.
Dang.
Right? Yeah.
So like pushing forward, obviously you kept going now, but like at the time, what like mentally, so you had a good group of people, like what made you personally want to just keep pushing forward?
I felt like I felt like I now had something I needed to prove.
Yep.
That I'd gone to my first Olympics and it went so disastrous. I didn't want that to be how people remembered me in the sport.
Yeah.
Right. So I was like, I wanted this to just be one chapter of a much larger book or much longer book. So that I think that whole incident, as traumatic as it was, and speaking, with my coach, and my team psychologist, realized that I could turn this around and use it as fuel to keep moving forward, to kind of like lit a fire under the, not just swimming, but a big reason why I'm swimming.
I gotcha. So, yeah, pushing forward there. So how does the recovery look for 2005?
2005 was great. That was like my first chance to kind of be like, hey guys, that was just a bad year. Right. Because now we've got the world champs in Montreal. It's home soil. I mean, like, I'm from West Coast, but Montreal is still Canada. Right. So for me, like, it really felt like it was like a home soil crowd. And, we got 2 silver medals on the relays, the 4x2 and the 4x1. And like those relays were really something, like having the hometown crowd screaming like that. And we even got jerseys, personalized jerseys from the Montreal Canadiens. So the deal with the team was that if we made the finals, we could walk out wearing our jerseys. So, you'd hear the announcer say, Team Canada, and we'd walk out. Well, they're already cheering, right? But then when they see us wearing the jerseys, like in Montreal, like they're crazy for their hockey in Montreal, right? Right. Canadians in general are crazy. Montreal is even crazier. Oh God, they just erupted, and I really feel like having that crowd at our backs really lifted the whole team. Like it went so great, and it's like, so that was kind of like a good sort of like a good way to kind of like start off the next Olympic cycle with a monkey off my back.
Gotcha. And so you guys was 2 silver medals, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you Americans, you beat us again. It's okay. We're used to it.
How do you move up from, what do you think because you got 9th and 5th in those relays in 2004. How do you guys move up from 9th to 2nd? What's that behind there?
Well, a big part of it was this guy actually doing what he was supposed to do, right? Finally. But no, I think there's just, the Canadian team, not just the men or just the women, like the entire team, we didn't win a single medal at the Athens Games. And so that was I think the single worst performance our team had ever had. So I'm not the only one that was walking out of those games feeling like I had something to prove. I think everybody was walking out there feeling like they had something to prove. And the fact that we knew that the next big meet was going to be on home soil, I think everybody, when they started training again, just everybody found a little bit of a new purpose to really put down a good year of training and get ready for those championships.
Gotcha.
So
taking it 2006, the Melbourne Commonwealth Games.
Yeah.
We couldn't really find much info on you for that. Take us through that, like how it went, what events.
Yeah, that was an unexpected, I should say, I had success where I didn't expect it in that one. Because at the time, like I was more of a 200 freestyle guy, like, because at World Champs, I was actually 4th in the 200 freestyle. Right. I remember I just got out touched by Rick Neethling from South Africa. I hope he's watching. I'm still angry about that, Rick. Thanks a lot. So going into Commonwealths, I really wanted to win gold in the 200 free. Ended up bronze. I think I'm gonna have to go back. But anyways, I got a lot of bronzes at the at those games. I got bronze on the relay, I got bronze in the 200 free. I think maybe bronze in the 100 free, or one of those I got 4th. And then in the 50 free, I was begging my coach to scratch me from that race, because like, I'm not going to medal in this one. Like, let me focus on my main events. Like, let me focus on my best medal chances. Like don't make me waste energy, because I'm doing the 100 free, the 200 free, and then all 3 relays. Again, doing the heats, the semis, and finals. That's a lot of racing for me. And he's like, you know what? It's just 50 meters. Just do the heats, and we'll see how you feel after that. I'm like, okay, fine. I do the heats. I qualify for the semifinals. It was I don't remember what my time was, but I felt pretty good. But he asked me, like, what do you think? Of like, I still think I should scratch and just focus on my other races. Like, you know what? It's just one length. Let's just do the semifinal, and then we can decide how you feel after that. It's like, okay, fine. So I go reluctantly. I go do the semifinal, and I qualified for the final. And he looks at me, and Tom, he's got this grin on his face. He goes, "So what do you think?" He's like, I'm like, well, I guess I'll do the final then, right? And it was funny at that point. My suits had all been pretty much worn out, just from they've just lost their stretch, right? So I had to have somebody go to like some random swim store downtown Melbourne somewhere and find me a brand new suit. So they found one that they thought was like, okay, well, this is like the closest to like Canadian colors. So it was all black with red and white stitching, but the red and white stitching was like overlapping. So from a distance, it looked like it had pink stitching. So I walk into the ready room, and right away, like there's Brett Hawk and there's Roland Schumann, and they're making fun of me, and making fun of me in my pink suit and whatnot. But we go out, we swim the race, and end up winning a silver medal, and that ended up being my best race. So, gotcha. Yeah. So again, I use those games as a pretty solid life lesson, right? Sometimes, like, you're going to find success when you don't expect it.
Yeah, for sure. So then let's move over to 2007. I'm excited to talk about this. So it's World Champions 2007. Let's just start 100 free. Take us through prelims, semis, finals, everything about that race that you remember.
Okay, well, to get there, I need to go back to the night before I actually hopped on the plane to go down there. I was I often cry when I tell the story, but I'll try not to. So it's late, or it's getting late. I've already got my suitcase and everything packed. I'm just winding down, getting ready for bed, and I get a call from my parents. They said, you better come out to the hospital. Your grandfather's going to die. Right. So get in the car, I drive from Vancouver out to Maple Ridge. He's in the hospice, and I see him on his bed, and he's unconscious. Like he's sound asleep. And there's a chair next to his bed. And my dad just said, well, just sit down and just spend some time with him. He's probably not going to wake up. So you're probably not going to get to talk to him, but just, at least just spend some time with him, because this is going to be it. He's not going to be, because I was going to be gone for weeks. Right. So I sat there and I was just trying to think about, like, well, what would I say to him, if he woke up? And suddenly he did. Right. He just opened his eyes, and I remember in his bed, he just like kind of turns his head and he looks at me, and I didn't plan on saying it. This is just what popped out. I just said, Grandpa, I'm going to the World Championships tomorrow. I'm going to win you a medal. And I just remember, like, he smiled, and he closed his eyes, and he went back to sleep. So got on the plane the next day with like feeling a real heavy heart, and I'm just thinking about this promise that I made to my grandfather. I remember even reading the Qantas in-flight magazine, and they had all these predictions for the races, and my name was not mentioned in any of the predictions for the 100-meter freestyle. Like as I think my name was like mentioned, like Brent Hayden's the fastest from Canada, but expect him to throw down a solid performance, but don't expect him to medal. Like basically is all they're calling for me. Everybody else is like you got Hugen Band, you got Lee Zach, you've got Schumann, right? Tons of other way bigger names than Hayden. But a few days later, I got out of training, and my coach tells me after training that he got an email from my dad, because I guess my dad wasn't sure when would be a good time for me to get the news. So I gave it to my coach, so my coach could be the one to determine a good time. Told me the news that my grandpa had passed away. So when I was in Melbourne, I remember like I got through. I actually don't even remember I don't remember the prelims at all. Now I'm thinking about it. I don't even think I remember the semifinals. I remember waiting in the lobby of the hotel, waiting for the bus. And I'd never been so scared in my life. My heart was just pounding out of my chest. And it didn't stop the whole way to the pool. Like I remember getting off the bus and walking towards the tunnel into the Rod Laver Arena. And my heart is still just pounding. Like my hands are shaking. It felt like I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do it. And I just kept going through, went through my warm-up routine, talked to my coach before the race. We just kind of kept going through the motions that I had, the routines that I had developed in my pre-race preparation, and got to the final stage of the ready room. And because it was a Murtha pool built on top of the tennis court, right at the, if you ever watched the Australian Open. Mm-hmm. So the ready room was actually down at court level. So we had to walk up the stairs to the pool deck. And so they had like this little hole cut out in the deck of the floor. So we were coming and walking up onto the stairs out on like directly into the center of the pool deck. So I remember hearing like the other athletes' names get called. I hear their footsteps. They're walking up the metal steps, clunk, 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 and then the crowd roaring when they go up there. And then they call my name, and I'm walking up there. I walk around the pool deck, and I just remember just like there's just like this huge like wave that just kind of hits you. This realization, like you got the lights and everything, you got the crowd, and I just had this feeling. I was like, my grandpa is somewhere here, So normally when I'm behind the blocks, I'm thinking like, okay, I'm visualizing my star, visualizing my underwater kick, my breakout, my flip turns, my cue word when the pain kicks in. What am I going to tell myself to kick in that last gear to finish the race? All I was thinking about was just like, what if I don't fulfill this promise? All right, this is the hardest promise I've ever made. I don't even know if it's possible. So the gun went, and I just gave that race everything that I had. I don't really remember the first lap. All I remember really is from watching the race. So the only replay I have is the actual video of the race. But I remember this moment when I was coming back, and the body kind of gets to that threshold point where you want to stop holding on to your stroke. You want because everything hurts. You want to slow down. You want to take an extra breath. Just reminded myself of that promise, right? And all that pain that I had been feeling at that point suddenly like took a back seat, and I felt like I could kind of like there's this weird sense where I was able to kind of push through that pain where it wasn't affecting me anymore. And I remember like I kind of noticed that Filippo, because Magnini was in lane 5. He was ahead of me, and I just put my head down. I just got my hand on the wall, and I turned around and looked at the wall, and I knew Filippo had won because I saw him celebrating. Right, Filippo was also the world champion in 2005. So I was like, okay, he would only be doing that if he won again, right? So I looked at the board, and being at the other end of the pool without my glasses, it was a little bit hard to read. So for a brief moment, I thought I was 7th, right? I just kind of squinted a little bit harder, and then that's when I saw that not only did Filippo have a 1 beside his name, but I had a 1 beside my name as well. And it was like, okay, being world champion, that was great. But I think it was more just the fact that I had actually fulfilled that promise, with the gold, right? Kind of combining the two. Like it's just, I've never felt that feeling ever again like that. It was absolutely incredible.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's incredible.
Yeah.
How do you so moving forward from that meet? How do you like stay motivated after you're world champion and you just went through everything? Is it tough to keep going because you had fulfilled this dream and you did it for your grandpa, or is yeah?
It's a dangerous place to be because once you've realized that you're actually like a really good swimmer, that's where you can get ego can take a bite out of you, right? And I think that actually happened to me a little bit because I went into the Beijing games feeling like I'm a world champion now. I mean, if you look back at the time, like the time in world championship standards is not really that fast. I mean, it was a lot earlier in the season, so I think that's why. But still, it's like I was still world champion, right?
Right.
So I went into the Beijing games, and the thought of not winning a medal never crossed my head. I didn't think not winning could be a possibility, right? And I ended up leaving Beijing without a medal. Now, I don't want to say that if I hadn't won the medal in 2007 that I would have won a medal in Beijing, but I think Beijing happened because I had another very valuable life lesson that I needed to learn, right? That you can't expect success to happen, right? Just because you're good doesn't mean it's going to happen, right? Like you have to get up there and you have to make it happen. And I went into the semifinal thinking like, okay, well, I don't need to win this race today. I just need to swim good enough to make the final. And I also had the 4x200 meter freestyle relay that night. So what I was saying earlier about how that performance, was my fuel for the Beijing games. So even though I didn't win a medal, so anyways, I did the semifinals, didn't make it. I think I was just a little too slow in the first 15 meters, ended up behind Eamon Sullivan's wake. And I just couldn't get in front of it. So I was just like eating wake the whole race. Thanks, Eamon. Hope you're watching. Right. Still angry about that too. Calling out everybody I'm angry at. No, it's funny though, because like we're all like really good friends, right? Yeah. So it's all good. But yeah, so didn't make the final, and I had to get ready for the 4x2 freestyle. But like, so one, I felt like I had something I needed to prove from that relay in Athens. But then two, now I'm pissed off that I didn't make the final, especially after being a world champion the year before. I was so angry. When we were swimming that relay, I dove in third. I was the third swimmer on a relay. When the second leg swimmer touched the wall, we were in seventh. I did my first split in 49 seconds to my feet. And when I touched the wall, we were in second. So even though Beijing overall did not go to plan, it wasn't the same thing as Athens, because at least now I can look back at Beijing and there was at least one good performance there. We ended up fifth again, but it was a much better performance from the whole team that time. Like we all actually did really well. It's just the results took care of themselves and we ended up fifth, right? But I was still able to walk out of those games still feeling like, well, you know what, at least I got one good Olympic performance out of me. And I think that was my leg on the 4x2 relay. So I kind of felt like, even though I didn't get the medal, I made up for that relay in Athens in a way. But was still really angry about that the 100 free semifinal and not swimming to my ability when I should have, right? Because again, like I thought I was good enough to make the semis or make the final without giving it 100%. But you know what? At the Olympics, you got to give it 100% to make it into the final, right? No one gets there cruising it. So that was a big ego check for me.
For sure.
Yeah. So I've told Josh Leando that story because he's our new young up and coming guy. So I told him like, let this story, let this lesson that I learned, let me pass that on to you so you don't have to experience it.
Very cool.
Right.
Yeah. So Oh, I'll let Paul take it.
So you finish up that Olympics, and then you go into 2009 World Championships, and I'm excited to hear about this. So you decide not to wear the Supersuit. What's the decision behind that?
That actually wasn't my choice.
Really?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I wanted to wear it. But my sponsor at the time, who was also the team sponsor, they told me if I wear that other suit, that there would be financial ramifications.
Wow.
Yeah. So they dropped that ball on me. I even had pressure from some of the other senior people at Swimming Canada who dumped it on me too, that as one of their star swimmers, they wanted to maintain a good working relationship with their sponsor. So don't wear that other suit. Right. So I was threatened, and then I was had that responsibility put on my shoulders. So I had to go out there. Yeah, I'm surprised I'm actually talking about that. I've never actually spoken about that publicly because I don't want to get anybody in trouble.
Right. Yeah.
But you know what? It is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. None of those same people are there anymore. But yeah, that was that decision, and I absolutely regret letting them do that to me instead of just trying to do what I needed to do just to go out there with a level playing field. I mean, we can get into the whole discussion about the super suits and their technological advancements and everything, but I mean, at the time, you never want to go out and feel like you're not swimming against a level playing field. I mean, the rules were the rules, the suits were the suits. It is what it is. Yeah. But it sucked going out there and knowing I wasn't swimming in a level playing field because other people had made that decision for me.
Gotcha. And what do you think their reasoning was for not wanting you to wear the suit? Because as someone like that looking up from the outside, you would think, well, this is going to give him a better chance to place higher, and for someone to place higher, that would make your company look better. But for them, what was their reasoning on that?
I feel like they just weren't thinking about what was best for me and my performance.
Right.
They just didn't want their swimmers dropping their suit because they just thought about that looking bad. I don't think they had the foresight to look at like, well, you know what, if he won the gold medal and broke the world record, you know, that still looks good for us. Right. They just weren't thinking that way. Yeah, I remember them telling me, like, well, Brent, since everybody else is also dropping the suit, you know, that pot of prize money that Swimming Canada gets, well, that's only going to be divided amongst the swimmers that actually wear that brand. So if everybody else drops it, well, that's fewer people to split it against. So you'll actually get a really big chunk of change. And then when it came down to it, they ended up splitting the pot against amongst everybody anyways. So that was yeah. I don't look back at 2009 very fondly, obviously.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, that was still my fastest time. Yeah, so I just can't help but imagine what would have happened if I'd actually just worn the other suit.
Right. Yeah, you were for the viewers out there, he was a 47.27. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
missed the podium by 200ths.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's the 10th fastest all time, I think. Yeah. Is that correct?
Yeah.
The history of the world, which is incredible. And it's at the Canadian record today, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see if Josh breaks it. I'll actually be excited to see him or, you know, somebody else break it, because records are meant to be broken. If like I was super happy actually when Josh broke my 50 free records. Well, both of them, we broke at short course, and then he just broke it again recently at the long course one. But like for me, like I've held those records long enough, right? So to see somebody break it, that means that swimming in Canada is progressing, and that's what I want to see, right? It's like so it's good for Canada. So hopefully one day we'll see that record get broken.
Gotcha. So and in the 100 when you went to 47.27, were you fourth?
Yeah.
Gotcha. So it's your
Yeah,
best
two
time.
100s.
Yeah. Is it tough to like it's your best time ever? Like, are you happy
Yeah.
about that? Or are you like pissed that like, dang, I got fourth? Or but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like it just sucks that again, it just goes to the fact that I was just the only guy out there wearing that suit. And because like if I had that other suit on, like maybe I would have won the gold medal. Maybe my name on the world record.
Right.
Right. But at the same time too, it's just like, I'm so glad they got rid of those suits. Because one, no one's ever going to be in a situation like that again, right? Because with the way the rules are, I wouldn't say there's any suit that's really the best. Now everybody gets to find the suits that's the best for them, right? Whereas back then, like you could squeeze any swimmer into that suit, and everybody would be going so much. Like you'd be going so much faster, right? Like some people love like I love Finis, right? That's the suit I was wearing for Tokyo. Some people like Arena, some people like Speedo, some people like Mizuno, right? Back then, though, it all came down to whatever that one best suit was that year is what everybody was trying to wear, right? Like I even put that suit on at the Berlin World Cup later that year because I heard they're going to ban the bodysuits. I figured, my sponsor probably wouldn't know because it's not televised, right? So they're like, okay, one last shot. Let's put this suit on, and I swam under the world record for the 200 freestyle, but I got second, right? That's when Biederman won. That's when Biederman won 139. I just snuck under the old world record. I went 140.80 or 0.83. But I went into the second last turn, the 150, like almost neck and neck with Biederman. Like I might have been down around his shoulders, but then he just took off on the last 50. And I even said to myself, well, I'll see ya. And but yeah, I touched that wall and looked back. I'm like, wow, these suits are fast. So I'm glad they're gone.
Right. So that would have been short course worlds.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. No way. I'm going 140 long course.
Yeah. I was gonna say.
Man.
Yeah, that's the Biederman's 142 flat.
Yeah.
Long course just seems like it's so much farther above anyone else's, which is
I mean, like as advantageous as those suits were, we're seeing a lot of other advantages that swimmers have now that swimmers back then during the suit eras didn't have, right? Like we got the wedge on the blocks, right? Even in backstroke, they got wedges now. There's just better training methodologies now. There's better access to nutrition, right? Like just the way athletes are approaching it now is so much better than we were able to do it before. Like we had the suit, but that was the only thing that was really advantageous. So it's awesome seeing so many more of those suited records get broken now. Absolutely love that. But yeah, it'd be crazy if we put the swimmers of today in those suits now we're things would just be getting a little too crazy.
Right.
Yeah,
for sure.
Looking into 2011, you get silver medal in the 100 free.
Yeah, that was an interesting one for sure because I don't know what it was, but I think I think I was starting to kind of like lose my passion a little bit in those games. Like I went through the heats and the semifinals, and not once did I feel nervous at all, which is not a good thing. Like you need the nerves because you need that adrenaline going through your system, right? That makes your reaction sharper. It makes you stronger, makes you quicker, right? Like all those great things that you need that is only associated when your body is going through that fight or flight stage. And I wasn't feeling that. I was feeling very emotionally flat. And that's when I was starting to get worried, right? I was starting to worry that maybe I'd lost my passion a little bit. But I remember walking or sitting down in the call room, and they had a TV there showing the same feed that they were showing on the jumbotron that was hanging over the pool, and they zoomed in on my fiance, right? She's sitting in there in the stand, and she had our niece on her lap, and they're both sitting there wearing shirts that had my picture on them, and this said "Go Brent, go." And when I saw that, that's when the nerves started to kick in, and that's when I kind of started to smile to myself a little bit. And so I think that was in that moment that became my why, that became my purpose in that race was to go out there and do it for them.
Absolutely.
Gotcha. That's great story.
Amazing. And you're second. That was another world championship medal for you. Amazing.
And like what's crazy was too is like that was the meet where James Magnuson kind of came out of the blue, right? Like before that, he hadn't really done anything on the world stage yet. No one was really looking at him. Then suddenly I think it was like maybe on a relay or something, he just like threw down like an insanely fast time, and that's when I kind of went, whoa. Right. So for me to get the silver behind him was definitely pretty awesome. I was pretty happy with that one. But I remember I don't remember who the gentleman was, but the one who hung the medal around my neck, because I was world champ in 07, no medals in 08, missed the podium again in 2009, but then skipping 2010, which I got I was double gold medalist at the Commonwealth Games that year. And that was actually I was the first person ever under 48 seconds without the bodysuits that year.
Wow.
And I had belly belly too, so I was like really, really sick, and I was like, I was vomiting and diarrhea and all sorts of stuff right before the race. But it's funny, that's another another little story that I just, when that was happening, I just told myself, well, that's just gonna make me lighter in the pool, right? And then I went out and went sub 48 in the 100 freestyle, first one ever, right? Wow. So I can hang on to that one. But yeah, oh god, now I got sidetracked. Where was I?
No, that was funny. We were 2011
silver medal.
Yeah. I forget the point I was going to make there. You see how that happens?
No, that's all right.
I forgot.
That's all
right. Yeah, for sure. So moving forward, it's 2011. Are you all in for London after that? You ready for it?
Yeah, I'm all in for London. But this is where things were like, my training was not going very well. It actually hadn't really been going great since 2008 when I had my first serious back spasm. Because actually at the 2008 Olympic trials, I had a back spasm in my warm down after the 100-meter freestyle. So I got out of the pool, had my back spasm, and I spent that night in hospital. And like they couldn't even they were trying to get x-rays of my back, and they couldn't even get me straight to take a good image of my back. That's how like contorted my body was from the spasm. So these spasms had been like, I couldn't string a good block of training together to save my life. Like there were so many times where I would just have to turn the car around because my back would start tightening up in the car driving to the pool, right? Like or I'd jump in the pool and maybe it's just the cold water, shocking my system or something. But like I'd dive in the pool, swim across the pool, and I'd have to just get out, walk over to the hot tub and go sit in the hot tub and try and stretch it out. And then like I would just have to go home, right? And try to book a massage or a car or something. So like that was happening all the times. But then leading into London, we got to staging camp in Olbia. It's like 2 weeks before the games. And I think it might have been the second day we were there. I just got off my bed, went to grab something from my backpack, and the next thing you know, I'm on the floor in the fetal position having another spasm. Right? Like I had to get carried down the hallway by my roommate and my physiotherapist. And they're trying to straighten me out. It was just like back in 2008 at the Olympic trials. They couldn't straighten me out. And so for 4 days, I could barely walk, right? Like the first day I didn't walk at all. And then I got to the point where I could kind of walk, but I'd be like hunched over and I could only like shuffle my feet. Like I remember actually like lying on the floor and having to pull my bed sheets to get me off the floor and to pull myself into bed because I couldn't use my legs. So I started thinking that, there was a chance I probably wasn't even going to get to compete, right? I had all these thoughts like, why me? But on the fourth day, I was like, I need to see the pool. So like we had the pool was in the resort we were staying at. So I walked my room to the pool for normal training time. Not even sure if I was even going to get in, but I just started to think like, okay, well, I just need to get back on the process again. And I got there and I just remember like having all these negative emotions and thoughts running through my head. And my coach, Tom, comes up to me and goes, okay, what are you thinking about right now? And I said, I don't want to retire before the Olympics. And he says to me, well, why don't you? All right. And when he said that, I was so angry. I blew up. I'm not one to yell and have temper tantrums, right? Like people know me as a pretty calm and collected guy. People have, often say that I'm like very like Zen, like,
yeah.
But in that moment, like I just blew up and I threw some equipment, right? It's like, kickboards and pull boys, right? So like I'm throwing this foam as hard as I can, right? I think I smashed my goggles on the ground. Anyways, I remember sitting down for dinner and nobody was sitting with me. Right. Everybody was avoiding me. But the next day I got to the pool and like I think I swam like 1,000 meters.
Mm-hmm.
Like my back was like loosening up. Right. And then the day after that, I did a full session, like training session, like nothing had ever happened. Like that the last 4 days never happened. And then I even did would often do this set before meets. So it was just 450s from a push long course on 6 minutes. And it was the best I ever did. That's just like a couple of days after I was thinking that I might be retiring before the Olympics.
Wow.
Right. So in that moment, like my coach wasn't trying to be a jerk, right? He was trying to get me to let out all that negative energy that I had been building up inside, right? Because when you let that bottle, like when you cap it, you bottle it up inside, like it can eat you away. Mm-hmm. Like it's so important to talk and to let things out sometimes, right? And only when I did that did my body like start to get back into the process and like start to like heal itself. So, but yeah, I remember going to the semifinal of the 100 free. Like, the heats were okay. Like I swam the best race that I could. It still didn't go great. It's like I didn't have a good start or something, or a good turn, or maybe it was a good finish, or maybe it was all three. Right. Like but I swam that race knowing there's a chance I might not be in the semifinal, because I learned that lesson in Beijing.
Right.
So I swam that race as best that I could. Technically, it went horribly, but I got a spot in the semifinal. I swam the semifinal the same way. Swam it as if it was my last race. I remember actually walking out for that race and thinking like, okay, well, in Beijing, I didn't appreciate this moment. I just went, it was like, okay, it was the semifinals, the big races tomorrow. Like, well, I might not have it tomorrow, right? This is the Olympics, right? So I'm going to walk out there and I'm going to soak it all in. I'm going to realize the stage that I'm walking out on. So I walked out and I'm looking up at the crowd, seeing how high the rafters go and seeing if I could see the people sitting at the very top. And they're like tiny, like little ants. Mm-hmm. It was like, it went up so high. And I ended up walking out on the wrong side of the boards, those triangle boards that are behind, right? So I was supposed to walk out in front. I walked behind it by accident. So I actually had to jump over those. And I think I gave my coach and everybody else on my team a heart attack, because they just like pictured me having like a back spasm from jumping over the board there. But anyway, I swam that race knowing there's a chance I might not get to swim it again tomorrow. But I got lane 7, right? Barely didn't make it in, but I got a lane.
Mhm.
And I woke up the next day and I had a pain in my back.
Oh shit.
So exactly. I was like, so I text my chiropractor, our team chiropractor, and with his accreditation, he's not allowed into the village until like 10 o'clock or something.
Uh-huh.
So it's like, okay, tell you what, I'll bring my table and I'll see you outside the entrance. So I walk out, go through security, and there he is on the sidewalk in public. He's got his table set up there, and I'm getting treatment, and people are walking around and people are taking pictures. Right? Because like we're just in public, right? There's like outside the village, and tons of people want to walk by the village, like to like peek in and see if they can spot the athletes. So tons of people were taking pictures of me. But he couldn't fix my back, and so what happened was it wasn't a spasm, but I had a rib that had slipped out of place.
Oh.
So it felt like I had a rib that was going to like pop through the skin in my back. It was really uncomfortable. But what I started telling myself was that in Beijing, I had every reason why I should be able to succeed. Right, I was healthy. I had that spasm at the trials, but I got over that after a week. But other than that, like I was swimming fast in Beijing, and I didn't succeed. Right, so I just told myself, like, you don't need everything to be going great. Right, I went under 48 seconds when I had Delhi belly, just a couple years earlier. I had tons of races throughout my life where things were going wrong. I dislocated my shoulder at a World Cup in Berlin in the heats and had to get it popped back in after the race, and won the gold medal in the finals that night. I had to scratch for the 50 free the next day because I couldn't swim anymore. Right. Just little things like that. I wouldn't say it was like a full dislocation, just like the humeral head just totally like rotated in the socket. So I had to popped back in. So like I had great successes lots of times when things weren't going great. So like just remind myself, I don't need everything to be going great to swim well today.
Right.
So just walked out on that pool deck, and I was like, this could be your last 100-meter freestyle ever. Right. Because I started to have that thought that I'm probably not going to keep swimming after these games. Something I guess I didn't talk about was that I was actually struggling with depression going into these games too. Right. One, partially because of the back spasms and just not being able to train at the level that I thought I needed to train in order to perform, because I'd already missed medals at the 2004 and the 2008 games. What if I don't medal at the 2012 games? And here I am with my back, making it even harder for myself. Right. Like, is this going to be my story? Am I going to be the guy that succeeded at every level of competition, but always underperformed at the Olympics? Right. I didn't want that to be my story. But I had a lot of other things going on in my personal life that was going on that was causing me outside the pool to spiral into depression. Right. This is where, like, having like a team psychologist, like on speed dial, doing emergency sessions, like, on my coffee table kind of thing. Right. Like it got really bad. So I was thinking that this is probably going to be the last time. And I got on the blocks. I felt, actually, even before that, actually, this is kind of funny. Everyone's got their goggles on. So if you actually go back and watch the race on YouTube, you'll see everyone's got their goggles on. And then the camera guy goes to me, and like, I'm still looking at my goggle straps. So in that moment, I'm already thinking like, okay, just 2 weeks ago, I couldn't walk for 4 days. Today, my ribs out of place. And now I pull out my goggles and put them on my head, and I realized that it was a new pair of goggles that I had totally messed up my straps, and they were all twisted. And without a swim cap on, I know that there's a chance that my goggle straps might fall off my head. Like, it's the Olympic final. I got a freshly shaved dome, so I'm extra slick, right? Like, crap. Right. But often when I swim outdoors, I actually don't wear goggles when I swim. So I'm pretty good at swimming without goggles. So I just reminded myself that it's like, okay, well, your goggles fall off, you can still see. So I just put the goggles on and got on the blocks. So I got all these things running through my head about why I shouldn't succeed. But I was like, I only need one reason though. one reason to succeed. And the gun went off, and I actually felt my goggle straps slip just a little bit. But I was at that point, that was the best first 15 meters I'd ever had in my career. I'm usually playing catch up in 100-meter freestyle. I think that time I was actually like in the hunt, like right from the beginning, but I couldn't see the guys on the other side of the pool, right? Because beside me was Sebastian Verschuren, right? In lane 6, and then I don't know who it also was. I think it was Nathan in lane 4, Magnuson in Nathan in lane 5, then 8, or Magnuson in lane 4, and then yada yada yada. I couldn't see where anybody was, so I just mentally projected a swimmer ahead of me to chase. And I was coming back at the last 25 meters. I kind of found myself in the same sort of moment where it's like when I had the last 25 meters of the 100 free in 2007, and I had that vision pop into my head that kind of helped put all that pain in the back seat. And it was, Brent, this is your last 100-meter freestyle ever. You better go. So I just put my head down and just, kept my arms going, tried to hang on to the water as much as I could. I touched the wall, I turned around, looked at the board, and I was like, 8th. But like I said, it's pretty far away. Numbers appear pretty fuzzy when I don't have my glasses. So I squinted a little harder, and that's when I realized that the fuzzy 8 was actually a 3.
Dang.
And I don't know if another color or metal would have felt any better. Because the fact that I had finally gotten an Olympic medal, the kid that failed swimming lessons, failed at 2 Olympics, and finally in his 3rd Olympics. I was the oldest one in the final by 5 years at that point. To finally get that medal was just like a dream come true. So it was a great moment, though, climbing over the lane rope and giving Nathan a big hug, because I was so happy for him winning his gold medal, because he's such a good guy too. But it was like, yeah, I ended up announcing my retirement a few days later.
Wow.
Right. Hadn't even spoken to my coach about it. Right. Which is actually, was actually something that I kind of regretted, because I wasn't actually planning on announcing my retirement. It was just like I was on stage giving a speech, and it was just like one of those moments where it's like, it just felt like the right moment. So I just did it. But then in hindsight, I'm like, kind of wish I spoke to my coach about that first, because I know he had plans afterwards. So that's the only regret that I have about that decision. But I don't regret actually retiring, because I think at the time it was the right decision, because there was no solutions to my back spasms. They were only getting more frequent and worse. My depression, I didn't have any solutions to. So I think if I continued swimming, my depression would have gone worse. I think my back spasms would have gone worse, and I think I would have fizzled out and faded away. Mm-hmm. And that's not the way I would ever have wanted to end a career.
I gotcha.
For sure.
How old were you when you retired for the first time?
Yeah, I was 27, almost 28. So I was like, by today's standards, that's not even old, right? But yeah. I felt old there, right? Like, because I'm looking at the program, I'm seeing my name with my age next to it, 27. Then I look down, and the next oldest guy is 22, and it's Nathan Adrian. So I'm like, I'm looking at this, I'm thinking like, wow, like I'm old, right? So I'm like, well, my body's not getting younger, so so I was like, I'm gonna take this moment and just go out on a high note. I've got my wedding a week after the closing ceremony is down in Lebanon. Like, I was like, I'm ready for that next stage of my life.
Yeah, for sure. So you take, what is it, seven years off?
Yeah.
Come back?
Yeah, seven years.
Wow. Like, did you ever think, like, when it was, let's say 2018 or 2015, that like you'd ever be swimming at that elite level again?
Once. Actually 2014, I actually met with my coach again, Tom Johnson. We went out for breakfast, and we talked about me making a comeback.
Yeah.
Right. But ultimately I decided I decided not to, because I was trying to think, oh, well, what's the reason why I'm coming back?
Right.
Like, is it because I can do it, or is it because I'm scared being in this next stage, right? Because there's a really scary thing that happens when somebody who has identified as an athlete their entire life, when they retire, they no longer have that identity anymore. They're no longer that athlete. So they go through this, like, I want to say, like, an identity crisis. And so, like, I realized, like, well, I don't want to come out of retirement just because I'm dealing with an identity crisis, because then I'm just going to end up back in the same place when I retire again.
Right.
Luckily for me, like, I did have a bit of a backing to kind of fall on. Like, that's where I think my photography really played a crucial role in my retirement, because when I was able to retire and I lost that identity as an athlete, I could kind of focus on the identity that I had as an artist, and give me time to explore that. I got into entrepreneurship as well. So I was kind of like, you know what? No, I'm just going to stay retired and just keep focusing on these other aspects of my life. But, I always got the comments every now and then, like on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, people saying like, hey, Brent, why don't you come out of retirement? Or I think there was even like a Swimming World magazine did a poll on what swimmer you'd like to see come out of retirement, and I won the poll. Right? It's like, and I was like, oh, you guys are making this easier. Right?
Yeah.
Like I don't want to come out of retirement. But I remember one person said, hey, Brent, you could always swim masters. And I actually like jokingly kind of said, like, look, if I'm ever going to start training again, it's going to be because I want to go back to the Olympian.
Right.
Nothing against masters at all. I think masters are great. And I coach a lot of masters through my online program.
Right.
But it's just like, it's just mentally, when I commit to something, I'm either like going all in or not at all. Right. So I was like, no, if I'm coming out of retirement, I'm training like I'm going to the Olympics. Right. That's what's going to do it. But like, I wasn't swimming at all during that time.
Wow.
Like during my 7 years off, I think I might have gone to the pool like 5 times to swim on my own. That's it. Right. Like, the only time I got in the water was when I was running swim clinics and, had to get in the water to do demos.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's it.
So then what makes it click that you're like, I'm coming back?
Oh, it was like, I was unexpected. It was, I was trying to do, my entrepreneurship thing, and because like we had been running our swim clinics across Canada, ever since 2012. We got into private lessons as well. And I started doing a lot of coaching with adults and masters and triathletes as well. And I was like, you know what? My wife and I, we developed this curriculum together. And my wife, she's an amazing teacher, right? Like she worked at one of the top private swim schools in Canada. Wow. Like she was a competitive swimmer too, actually. My coach knew her before I did.
Oh,
right. Yeah. So we wanted to film like our curriculum that we had developed and make that available online. So while we were in Lebanon in 2019, we were staying about 20 kilometers north of Beirut, and it's like, okay, well, let's find a pool here and see if we can film it, because we couldn't film it in Canada because of, privacy laws with cameras on deck, as well as just pool access, because we needed a pool that could give us like a lot of access to film everything, right? Like this wasn't some like little like, top 3 swimming steps or tips, right? Like this is like a full start to finish curriculum for, so like if you've never, or if as long as you're comfortable in the water kind of thing, all the way up to a finished like full like high performance style freestyle technique. So I remember like hopping on a computer and looking for these blue triangles from Google Earth or Google Maps, right? A satellite view, just trying to find pools. And then I'd find one, then I'd Google it and see what it's like. And we ended up finding this pool at this country club called the Jaita Country Club. And we went and met with the owner, and it was just such a beautiful pool. Like it was Olympic size, so 50 meter, like on a hillside looking down the valley towards the Mediterranean.
Wow.
Right, just the most unbelievable sunsets there. and I started getting in the water literally just to film the course. Right. And I would spend like about a week just going there and just kind of swimming laps on my own, kind of getting the body moving again, trying to find my feel for the water. Right. So I got that feel back from, when I'm swimming, or sorry, when I'm filming. And then we went and we filmed the course. And then it started to turn in the back of my head, like, because the thing was that was really surprising was like, I felt really good.
Yeah.
Right. I'd even get in and even if we were just hanging out at the pool, just, for, the recreational swimming, like later on in the day, like hanging around, watching the sunset, I would just like push out the wall and I'd just like sprint to width just for fun and just to see what it felt like again, to feel that speed. Then we even did a swim clinic for these young swimmers at a university downtown Beirut. And they wanted to see me swim fast. So I got on like their block. It was like not a good block by international standards. And I got my wife to just film me doing a dive 25 for them. And then then we timed the video and I sent that video to Brett Hawk. I was like, what do you think? Like, yeah, I think you could do it. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I was also talking with I started talking with Bruno Fratis quite a bit to see to see if he would see what his opinion was. I even reached out to Anthony Irvin, right? Because guy who won the gold in 2000, he comes back and wins the gold in 2016.
Right.
So get this guy's advice. See if he thinks I could do it. And they're all just like, yeah, dude, just go for it. Right. Just do it. Right. So then that's when I decided to send that email to Swimming Canada and see if they would support my journey. And I knew if I was going to do it, I would have to do it with my old coach again. But I think he's probably the only coach in the world that probably gets me.
Right.
Right. I'll admit, I don't think I'm really an easy swimmer to coach. Because I don't know, it's just like it's not like I'm not like intentionally difficult. I think I'm just unique with the way I respond to training, right? Like so. And it was just also like I was like, it would also just be great to do it with him as well, because like I said, I regretted retiring without talking to him first. I was like, kind of like another chance to kind of like, well, maybe if I come back, I'll have another chance to retire properly, right? I feel like so we're both not feeling like there's any unfinished business there, and it's like so when they emailed me back saying that they would support my journey and tell like, yeah, I want to coach you, I was like, let's do this. Like it was like I was so excited, and coming back home, like I had to get back home for training, but we had like our flight got canceled, and like we had this stray cat that we found in the parking lot that we're like trying to like bring back home too for my sister. And like it was turning into a pain in the butt figuring out like new flights and stuff. So what we ended up working was that the only way it could work for me to get back home in time for training was that I fly alone with this cat, and then my wife and her mom go to Egypt for a week, and then they come home, right? Not to mention, like I know this isn't an important detail, but I got food poisoning the last night. We had been in Lebanon for 3 months, and I finally got food poisoning the last night at an Italian restaurant. So there's me on this flight, like just like barfing my guts out, just like white, can't eat anything. And I've got this cat that I'm traveling with, like by myself. It was the cat actually got out of the kennel on that first flight too. So like there's me sick, like running up and down the airplane looking for this cat, because I put my hand in to feed her, and she pushed her way past my hand, and the zipper just kept undoing, and she just hopped down, and it was a big mess. But got back home, spent a week just going to local pools around here just to start training before I could get back or get into the water at the National High Performance Center in Vancouver. And and then the rest is history, I guess.
Incredible. So when you're training for Tokyo, deep down, are you thinking like, I can do this, or are you kind of just like, well, we'll see what happens, I'm going to give it my best? Or
it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
It's kind of like it's like I learned a long time ago, my dad always had the best advice for me growing up. It was just do your best and have fun.
Mm-hmm.
Right. As long as you can do those two things, then whatever happens, happens. So like, you know what, this time around, I'm just going to enjoy it. I'm just going to do my best. I'm just going to have fun. Right. I think I can do it, but it doesn't mean it will happen. Right. Like, as I know, it's like, 2008, I can win a medal. It doesn't mean I'm going to, right. I walked out of Beijing or, hopped on the plane without a medal. So I was like, I just want to have a chance to kind of fall back in love with the sport again and just see what happens. I mean, at the time I was thinking like it was just going to be 1 year. But then COVID hit. That was kind of unexpected. That turned into 2 years. Definitely had to get creative with my training because the pools here shut down. So during the time I was like running laps in the park, taking my Finis slide trainer stretch cords to the park as well, so I could do like some kind of resistance training. I got a wetsuit. I was going out to the lake, swimming like distance swimming for a sprinter, which is actually it worked out well because I used those form goggles. So with the intervals going, I would actually do sprint intervals in the lake. So I'd like sprint for 10 seconds. So then easy for 45 seconds, sprint 15 seconds, right? Then 20 seconds, I'd do that. So it was actually pretty cool. But then I'd also just take, I took a stretch cord tether, went out to my parents' place and hooked it onto the back of their garden fence. And I would just do stationary swimming in their backyard pool. Right. But it was like because of COVID, I wouldn't go in the house. Right? I'd walk down the side of the house and just show up at the backyard. They'd have the pool open already. They'd be upstairs and watching me from the window.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it was definitely had to be creative during that time. But it's I think it just made you just realize how privileged we are when we have the opportunity to do sport.
Yep.
Absolutely. Do you think COVID helped your performance, being like you just came back, instead you have 2 years to train versus 1, or would you say it was a damper because you still couldn't do what you wanted?
I try to look at the silver lining because when I came back out of retirement, I was giving myself less than a year, and COVID turned it into 2. So I try to look at it as a way of like, okay, well, I actually ended up getting more time to come back. But I was before COVID, I went that 21-9, at the Pro Series in Des Moines, and I felt like I was on a really good trajectory because like I was lifting weights the way I had learned how to lift weights during my years while I was retired, because I wasn't swimming, but I was staying fit in the gym. But with COVID, it gave me an extra year, but because of all the restrictions, I went from lifting weights, 3-4 times a week for an hour each. So I think like that's like up to about 4 hours, in the gym, down to like 3 45-minute weight sessions. Right. So I cut my weight training way down. I mean, I still got stronger, right? Like my vertical jump got better because I started doing vertical jumps with trap bars on a jump pad. So I measured that. My bench press got higher. My deadlifts got higher, but there was still something with the way I was training before that was kind of hard because, like I said, I won 21-9 after only 6 months, but then, a year and a half later, 21-8, in Tokyo, I felt like, maybe if I'd been able to keep training without the restriction of COVID, maybe I would have been able to go faster. But I mean, it's the way the world went, and like I said, despite that, just the fact is like I still made it back to the Olympics. I still got to go to the Olympics again. It was my 4th time. I got to add to my list on my arm that I got. I got to fall in love with the sport again. So really, the times my individual performances really were secondary in this whole journey. Right? It was like the whole thing was really about. It was a healing journey. That was the primary focus. So I can be upset that I didn't get to train the way I wanted to because of the COVID restrictions, but in the end, I achieved what I got. And in fact, that COVID maybe actually gave me an extra year in the sport, because maybe if COVID didn't happen, I would have done the 1 year to Tokyo and then retired right there. I wouldn't have gone that second year, right? I wouldn't have done 2 seasons in the ISL, being vice captain of the Toronto Titans, right?
Mhm.
I made so many more friends in this journey, right? That I didn't have before, right? And so like so many cool memories. I'm hoping that I can still stick around in the sport now and stay in touch with a lot of them.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you can probably hear my dog walking around too, can't you?
Oh, that's great. Nah, it's all good.
He's getting impatient.
And
I actually don't hear it at
Tokyo,
all.
you go 47.99 under 48.
Yeah,
Jeez.
which is like honestly, like to me, it's kind of hilarious because like I can't help but laugh because the entire time I was thinking like I'm not training for the 100, I'm training for the 50. I never even did a set where I swam further than 100 meters, in a set, right? Like I might do like 4 times 100 meters, but I'd never do 4 times 150. I would never do that flip turn. So like most of my training were 50s and 25s, and then 100s were mostly like like aerobic stuff. So yeah, I was thinking like I train for the 50, and then whatever happens. I can help support the team in the relay if they need that 4th guy.
Right.
That's really what that was. But then at Olympic trials, we were sitting in 15th place. So if any other countries had done a time trial, we were at risk of getting knocked out, right? Because only the top 16 actually go.
Right.
So we did a time trial, and that's where I led off in a 48.4. I was like, okay, like that's pretty good. But then at Olympic trials after the 50 free, my back was acting up again, and I couldn't swim the finals for it. But because of that time I did in the time trial, they were able to put me on to lead off the relay there. And yeah, I remember like nobody was really looking at us to do well, but I remember back in 2004 watching the South Africans, right? Nobody was expecting them to medal, and they came out of the blue and just like they won the gold medal, right? So I told the guys like, we don't need other people to believe in us as long as we believe in ourselves, right? Like I've seen it happen before, so why not us?
Yep.
Right. And that's when I led off and just like, okay, I'm just gonna swim this race like it's my last 100-meter freestyle ever again. And when I touched that wall and turned around first, like I see Josh's feet go, right? He hits the water, and I look up and I see the 47.99. I was like, oh man, like this is special, right? Not just me, because it was just like going sub 48. It was like I knew I needed to put in a good performance because I knew that our team was capable of doing something special. So like I knew I did the best that I could do, and like I knew that time was going to fire up the other guys, and we were in a medal shot with like 15 less than 20 meters to go. And it took Kyle Chalmers, to run our guy down and get his hand on the wall before us. But like, man, going from 15th in the world to making the final and then being in the hunt for the medal right to the very end, like I don't even care that we didn't win a medal.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, medals are great. Like it would have been awesome to stand on the podium with those guys to have that. But like 2 years earlier, I wasn't thinking about swimming again.
Yeah.
Right. So to be back on that pool deck and to be 4th at the Olympics on that relay with those guys, it was just like I was just the best.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I remember I was watching Tokyo, and I was just so fired up. I was like, that's like kind of when I realized like who you were. I was like,
yeah,
some guy from Canada is absolutely just tearing it up. And then it turns out like he's like way older than everyone else. It's like, this guy's such a badass.
yeah.
Let's go.
So like there's this there's this TikToker named CSA Punch.
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh, she's absolutely hilarious. But I think she did a post and said something like oh my god, like, there's a geriatric millennial swimming in the Olympics. Like this gives us hope.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
How old would you have been when you swam in Tokyo?
I was 37.
Jeez,
That's
that's crazy.
What
So
go ahead, Luke. Go ahead, Luke.
yeah, so what takes you to the like I mean, you're 37. You could retire right then and there, be done with your career. But what makes you decide to go to the ISL?
Like, well, one, I signed the contract before Tokyo, so
Okay.
I was already committed, right? But like for me, it's just we didn't have ISL, when I was swimming before, so like, I just wanted, I just kind of wanted to take advantage of the time that I'm in the sport to do something that I never had a chance to do before, and I was vice captain of the Titans the year before, and like I had a lot of fun, and the team did really well for a new team. So like, I want to do this again, especially since the last year, the first time I did it, it was we were in the COVID bubble. So like there were a lot of restrictions. So it's like, okay, I want to do an ISL where we don't have like those extreme restrictions that time. And I was like, let's see what the team can do now that we've got the, I want to say like, the fresh smell, the newness off of it, and come back around the second time. And yeah, like I'm so glad I did. I mean me personally, I don't think I swam well because my back was becoming an issue. It actually started to tighten up in Tokyo, and then when I got off the plane back in Vancouver, it was actually pretty bad. And so I think just like all the racing and all the travel and all these different beds that I'm sleeping in, I think it was just my back had just kind of had enough. But it was still just an awesome experience to be a part of, because like when I retired the first time, like looking back on my career, I realized like there's some of my favorite memories they're not the performances, they're not the podiums, they're not the medals. You remember all the smaller moments that lie in between the big moments, right? So like I got so many more of those after the second season, and it was actually kind of hard telling my teammates that I was going to retire, because I sent out a bunch of private messages before I made the announcement.
Yep.
Right. Didn't get around to everybody, but yeah, I was like saying bye to those guys, as well as some of those relay guys that had in Tokyo. That was the hardest.
Gotcha. And what was the decision like to retire and not go for 2022 Worlds and just call it after the ISL?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of thinking I was going to go to Paris because, again, with the delay of Tokyo, that's 1 year closer. I'm already to Paris. I'm already into that Olympic cycle, right? So
Right.
why not just kind of keep going? But I took some time off after ISL, and I even started training again. I even sent Josh a message like when I got back into training, like, yeah, let's go get that medal in Paris, right? So I was like, I was into it. I was even trying to organize going down to Florida to train with Bruno. But ultimately, I think it just I put so much of my life on the back burner, right, to focus on my swimming, like, because we launched our online swimming program, we call it Swimming Secrets, right? So like I'm coaching literally like thousands of swimmers around the world now, right? Like helping them with their technique. But we still got to like grow the business. So like, we're doing all, like, when we take care of all the marketing and everything as well, answering the emails, troubleshooting, giving feedback on form, all that stuff. But then also, like, my wife's got her life as well. I mean, she takes a big part of the Swimming Secrets as well. Like this is our business we run together, but she's got things she wants to do, and we got things we want to do together. Like, we want to travel more. We got want to go and experience. Like when I came out of retirement, we're like, the discussion was that it was only going to be 1 year, and I got two. Or I actually got almost 2.5 years, right? So like, what? I think I'm ready to get going on the rest of my life again. All right, I've already fallen back in love with the sport. All right, let's leave it now. And again, also, like, you look at the young guys that are coming up in the men's program, they don't need me.
Yeah.
Right? Like they don't. I don't think they need me anymore. I think the impact I'm going to have on their careers in terms of like a leadership role, like I already did that, and I think they're going to take what they needed from me and take it moving forward. So So I'm going to be cheering them from the from the stands or through the screen now. Pushing them through my messaging them on Instagram and stuff. But yeah, it was time.
Absolutely. What a career.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for taking us through it. We just got a couple more questions we ask all of our guests that come on. We'll shoot them. We'll ask you right now. Luke, do you have anything else before we hit those?
I actually do have one question. So, like, you were 37 at the Tokyo Olympics.
Yeah.
And so you had to be fine-tuning absolutely everything to be able to perform on the Olympic stage with people who are literally 10 years younger, or more than 10 years. So what was everything you were doing to fine-tune that?
Well, one, I had to change my dive. Like you just look at video of the dives I was doing, back in Tokyo, and the way that the top swimmers are doing dives now, like they're totally different, right? Like I think Stefan Nystuen was probably the first swimmer I ever saw do a dive with his arms recovering over the top. And we all thought it was like totally bizarre, but now everyone's doing it. Right? Like I don't know if he was the first one to do it. Like I think like Roland Skuman probably was kind of like the godfather of like perfecting that dive. But like the way swimmers do their dives now, there are way more KPIs that I can check off when I watch my video feedback. It's not just angle entry, anymore. So I completely reinvented the way I do that. My reaction time is still never really been that great. Yeah, I mean, I did probably access to video analysis is probably one of the biggest differences. Like if we ever wanted to do video analysis before, it was like a big setup. You had to have like, camera guy come in and like set up everything. Now it's just like we just have camera coming right there. We just plop it in the pool and we have the TV running right there. On a delay, so we can touch the wall, turn around, look at ourselves and go back in. But I think probably the biggest difference I probably made is I trained a lot less.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big difference. I was swimming 9 times a week before, and I would take like the full 2 hours in the pool. Now I'm like an hour and 15, and I'm only swimming like 4 times a week. Right. I would do like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I would just do just skill work. So that's where I'd be doing my dive work. So it's not even really a swim. Thursday, I would take off completely, and then I'd swim Friday and then Saturday. So I'd basically the only actual swims I was doing was Monday, Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday, right? Because Wednesday was skills, Thursday was off, and then I'd take Sunday off again. I dialed in my diet like way more than before. That saying, you got to treat your body like a Ferrari. Well, I look back, I was probably treating my body more like a time traveling DeLorean. And I'm probably aging myself because I don't think you younger guys probably even get the reference, right? From Back to the Future 2, the car runs on garbage. Yeah, I track my meals now. I switched over to a predominantly plant-based diet. I found when I keeping track of I wasn't writing a journal, but I keep mental notes in my head of how I'd eat and then how I'd feel the next day. And I found whenever I ate red meat, my arms felt like I had sludge in my veins the next day. Like my arms would just tire out way, way faster. And so I found when I ate more plant-based for more days, I just felt like I had better vasodilation, just better blood flow to my limbs, right? Things like that. I got better at my sleep. I got something called the Apollo Neuro. So it literally just vibrates and it stimulates your parasympathetic system. So if you're feeling kind of triggered, it would actually help your nerves calm back down and go into that rest and digest state. So I could fall asleep faster. I'm taking melatonin every single night to taking it like maybe once, twice a month when I got on that, right? So it's just like fine tuning all of these little details everywhere. Just like, was that the 1% rule? Get 1% better at as many different things as you can. That was like kind of what I was doing.
Yeah, it adds up. What was your favorite thing to do outside of the pool?
Like while I was training, or
Just like in general, like as like a hobby or like just about anything.
okay, so just like in my just generally like that's definitely my photography.
Okay.
Like even when I was at ISL in Budapest, I actually brought my camera with me. I actually started doing photography more seriously back in high school. So like I've been doing photography for about as long as I've been swimming, right? Because I got into swimming seriously in going into grade 11. That's also the same year I took my first photography class. Working with film. So like I think the dark room was my favorite room in the entire school, right? Developing, the prints and the, like all the chemicals and stuff, right?
Yep.
And I'd been shooting digitally probably until about 2016, 2017. Then I got an old Hasselblad medium format camera. So I'm back to shooting film again. And actually during COVID, I actually collected all the pieces I needed to build a dark room at my parents' place. So I took the back corner in their basement, and I've been in there now. So yeah, so when I'm not swimming, I think my real passion, the thing that gives me sort of like self-worth, I guess, makes me feel good about myself is my photography. But like it also, like even when I was swimming, I think it's very meditative in a way. Because like I could have the worst day at training, but if I can go take my camera out into the forest or onto a beach somewhere for a few hours, like I immediately feel better. Because I just like, it's like that zone, I think, when you're standing behind the blocks. I mean, without the nerves, but like when you stare down that lane and you focus on the wall at the other end of the pool, and everything outside that lane, like outside those lane rows, kind of starts to like blur. I kind of feel like that a little bit sometimes when I'm looking through my viewfinder. So like a lot of times I find like my images kind of seem like a little bit, I don't want to say simple, but there's a lot of breathing room in my photos.
Gotcha.
And I think that like it's kind of like that's sort of like I think that's just sort of the way my mind works. That's where I kind of find my peace a little bit. So
absolutely, yeah. And what's your favorite pool? I know you swam in probably pools all across the world. If you had to maybe pick one that you like, you'd put over the top of others.
I mean, like the Tokyo pool is probably the best pool I've ever actually raced in. It was just really good. But I think my favorite pool, I love the Berlin pool for the World Cups. Okay. I don't know why. I love that pool, but also the London pool for the 2012 Olympics, but also like that pool in Lebanon.
Yeah,
right, at the Jaita Country Club. I mean, I've never raced there, but but there's something kind of magical about that pool. Like, because when I got in the water, I don't think if I got in the water in any other pool that I would have sort of sparked that the feeling that I got, that desire, that emotional connection with the water again, to want to come back.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, something else I actually love to do. I don't know if anybody out there is a Nintendo 64 fan. I still have my Nintendo 64 that I bought with my babysitting money. And one of my favorite things to do with some of my friends is to just play GoldenEye. So you'll have some of the older viewers might be able to relate. It's all about GoldenEye, Battle Mode, DK, with slappers only on License to Kill in the facility or the temple. If anybody knows GoldenEye, they're gonna know exactly what I'm talking about.
All right. Yeah. Any fans out there that?
No, man, I almost entered in a GoldenEye tournament here in Vancouver a couple of weeks ago, but it was just a bad day. I couldn't go because I was helping my wife her project, but I'm gonna look for it next year. So you might not see me back at the Olympics, but you might see me entering in some GoldenEye tournaments.
Nice. What's your favorite snack you ate at the pool?
Yep.
At the pool.
Yeah, out of meat.
Yeah. Favorite meat snack.
Oh man. dude, I'm gonna ask my wife, honey, do I even have a favorite snack at the pool? She's sitting there all quiet.
Banana?
Banana.
They're boring.
Yeah, peanut butter and banana bagel.
Peanut butter.
Yeah, like snack food's pretty boring because it's so like performance based. But like my favorite meal to eat at home, like even when I was eating like real plant based, every once in a while I get home from like a just a tough day or maybe it was a hard week of training. Like I just want a pizza, right? Give me a pizza, load up that GoldenEye. I'm good.
That's great. So if you could swim with one person, dead or alive, we're talking back in time, however far you want to go, or Michael Phelps, who are you going with?
Well, heck,
Oh
you
my
probably
God.
already swam with Phelps a couple times, haven't you?
Oh my God, I say like I've swam against Popov, Thorpe, right? Hackett, Phelps, like Dressel, like Hugenband, Lezak. Like I swam against like every generational great since like the late 90s or even early 90s because Popov was, he went back to the 80s, right? So and
and they don't have to be a swimmer. They could be, you could go get some laps with your favorite photographer or
like
whatever.
who actually I thought was really cool. And I think it's somebody that will probably a lot of people wouldn't think that Olympian would actually look up to. It would actually be Eric the Eel.
Oh, that guy that
from the 2000 Sydney Olympics, man.
Yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about.
Right, like I think I wouldn't mind going for a swim with him because like I don't know. It's like I'm not always inspired by. I think what in terms of and what I find inspirational, it's not just performances. I think there's so much more than performances where if you get inspired by somebody's story, and I always thought his story was really inspiring.
Yeah, and he swam like that heat like all alone, didn't
he? Yeah. Yeah, because the other two swimmers false started. But like I remember hearing a story like he'd be training like rivers with like alligators or like even just like small hotel pools and stuff like so like that, and that's what I love about the Olympics. It's not just about the performances, it's about the humanity, right? Like those like it's there's a lot of really great stories, and performances are only part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And lastly, we always ask all of our guests, do you have any words of wisdom for anyone watching?
Oh, just do your best and have fun, right? Because honestly, like I don't want to over-explain it, but for a kid who failed swimming lessons and was like overlooked by all the much better swimmers that I was racing against or even training with, that was the best advice that my dad could give me, because it didn't matter if I came first, last, DQ'd. If I went out there and did my best and I had fun doing it, that made it all worth it, right? And I think there are times in my first life of my career where I had lost that, and I think this whole journey back to the Olympics again was all about finding my dad's original advice and living true to that once again.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, yeah. Thanks for joining us. It's been an absolute honor to have.
Yeah, it's been a slice.
Yeah.
It was like 2 hours.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys are gonna chop it all up, but or whatever. But
it might be. It's gonna be pretty close to 2 hours. Yeah, I would like to thank you for coming back on. It's such an honor to have such an accredited and just great swimmer.
Yeah.
Podcast.
No, thank you guys so much. This was an absolute pleasure. Thank you for giving me the chance to actually tell the whole story and not just focusing on the just a couple of. It was really great to be able to kind of go through it year by year. That was really cool. So yeah, thank you guys for that.
Yep.
Yeah, I was talking to Luke before the podcast, and most of the time when we have guests, we're trying to find things to talk about. I'm like, look, we got so much to talk about.
Yeah, I had a kind of a colorful career, right? Not only was I swim, but throwing that Riot beating in there as well, right? Who knows? Maybe one day I can find somebody to help me write my book. I don't know.
There you go. Yeah.
For
All
sure.
right, we're wrapping it up. That is episode 7. Brent Hayden, absolute legend, coolest guy ever. Let's go in the books.
Yes, sir.